Why you change dates? But my name is Anne-Marie Rogers, and I'm listed as from the planning department. I just wanted folks to know that I'm not actually speaking as the planning department, because there's a big process that goes along. But so I'm more speaking as my own experience from an Iowa hog farm to a city planner at San Francisco. And I must say it's been quite a transformation for me. I came from a very closeted gay community in Iowa for 4 years at the university. I had good friends, and if they weren't gay, they didn't know anything that happened in my life. It was just, there was a lot of fear and like constant lying, and even though this was in the late 80s, it was still, you know, pretty not so comfortable time to be gay in Iowa. And so I was interested in maybe doing an internship in San Francisco, and I was very happy to come out here. When I started, it took me a while to really understand what was going on. It was 1991, and my supervisor at work was a woman in her early 50s, and every day she wore a pink triangle with her outfit. It happened to match, and I was like, wow, that lady doesn't know that she's wearing a gay triangle. My coworkers were gay, some of them, and I sorted out the lesbians, and the gay guys were pretty obvious. I went on dates. I went on dates with people's coworkers because I wasn't sure if it was safe to tell your coworkers that you were gay. So I was going on dates with men, and I would say, "Let's go to the Castro and check out the Castro." And then finally, for coming out day, you know, I put it together. I'd been there for a month and a half. I'm like, okay, she's wearing that every day for a reason, and I think she's probably a lesbian. So I told her, and she took me. She's like, okay, I'm calling my partner. I'm going to get, you know, all the other supervisors and make them get their partners if they're straight, if they're gay. We're going to go to the Castro, and we're going to, you know, eat at the pizza joint there. And it was really freeing. It was so amazing to think that I could have a professional life, and it could be integrated with my personal life, and everybody was just really cool, and the straight people were cool, and the gay people were cool, and so, I mean, having a gay neighborhood, and I knew, you know, what that meant to me at that moment is amazing, and it gave me, you know, personal strength that I didn't have before. When I went back to the Midwest for graduate school, I wasn't taking any more crap, and so I just put a big sign on my back, I'm a lesbian, you know, deal with it, and it was fun, and I got along, and I didn't know that was possible until living in a community like San Francisco and visiting the Castro when I came to it was amazing. The first thing, of course, that you need when you come to the Castro was housing. And I came with my mother. How am I going to find housing? You know, at that time there's no internet, so I was reading the wanted ads in the papers. I went to the women's building, and there were all lesbians looking for housing roommates in flats, like you're saying, or in in-law apartments. You know, the less expensive. I had an unpaid internship, you know, but there were plenty of living opportunities in 1991 that were affordable for me and were exciting for me. Although Mom said not to move in with any lesbians over the age of 30 because they're all perverts. Luckily I found some younger ones that were also perverts too, so it kind of worked out for me. You know, at that time there was Josie's Cabaret. I thought was an amazing resource in the Castro. It was so fun to see live comedy and queer comedy every weekend. There were a lot of really good lesbian basketball games at Eureka Valley Gym. There's still Amelia's had not closed over in Valencia, and there was women's bookstores, old wives' tales, things that aren't there anymore. There were weirdo witchcraft stores and, you know, low rent commercial spaces that were very lesbian and very exciting. And yeah, as we've been talking about tonight, change is natural, you know, whether cities evolve, but change is something that is inherent in our living condition, and the key is to make sure that we direct the change, and that the change is a positive change. And I think that can happen. There have been some cultural neighborhoods that have stood the test of time. You know, Chinatown in San Francisco and in other places throughout the country have been able to, you know, keep their cultural districts and keep the housing and keep the businesses that are important to them. Perhaps it's harder for the LGBT community because we're not born into an ethnically LGBT family for most times. Our culture is something that we learn as an adults in our outside lives, and it's not something that we're able to, you know, be schooled in from our parents, and to feel that immersion in immediately is something that we seek out, find, and create. And, you know, what we've created is amazing, and people ask, you know, well, society has changed a lot from my experience. Young people coming today, maybe they're out in their high school in Iowa, and, you know, is there still a need for this cultural phenomenon that we are so lucky to have here? You know, we're seeing gay newspapers are having a hard time. You know, really talented queer writers can be really talented queer writers for really big papers. They don't need to necessarily work for the queer-centric ones. And women's bookstores are disappearing at a super clip, if there's any left. You know, there's not so many are left right now. But even though we do have this, a higher level of acceptance, at least in our country, it's still, you know, I live very close to you, so we'll have to meet and talk. Yeah. So I live on 17th near Hartford, so right there, and I see, you know, the cultural tourists that come, the queer people getting off the F market, and they need to be shown around, and they're so happy, and they're crying, and I take their pictures next to the flag, and it's really moving, obviously. And it's moving to me, too, after I travel to the Midwest, and I come back home to here, and I can walk into bathrooms, and I can just, like, walk around, and it's not shocking for anybody. And so, in my own life, I still enjoy the refuge that our community provides us. And it is the Castro, and it is more gay, but it's still, you know, like you, I also feel it's very safe for women. We can drink wine and walk around on the street and be a little tipsy. Maybe I've ran into some of you, but it's very safe. You know, we can do this in a very safe way, in a comfortable way. So I think, so Chinatown, as I mentioned, might be an example of a sustainable community. And I think the most important thing for us, there's a number of things that are really important, but clearly we need gay, affordable housing for the LGBT community. And, you know, I'm not concerned about, I have a good paying job now, it's fine, I'm not concerned about if I can buy a house or not, that doesn't matter. But the most important thing is that we can keep housing resources for our new LGBT gay immigrants that are coming in, you know, for our senior population, for people that don't have as many choices. We need to ensure that there's this affordable housing. And affordable housing, the most affordable housing stock is the existing housing stock, you know. So, in Chinatown, they put controls on, they just prohibited demolitions, they have controls on the size of commercial spaces, so you can't have a really big commercial frontage that gets to be more difficult to afford. And there are some things that we can do, but I think the controls the government have are one thing, and the controls that the capitalist economy have are quite strong. You know, so I think it's going to take quite a social movement to say, this is what our priorities are. Affordable housing is important. We need it for our artists, our musicians. We need it for our political activists, for the people that are creating the community that the rest of us partake in. And so I think that's what we need to work on. And I'm glad I don't wrap up. Brian gets to sum up everything in the amazing way he can do. So
yeah, sum up what everyone said, would you?
Right. Oops, you weren't here.